Hi, guys. This is the very first episode of Bloody Essentials. Welcome. I'm Nina.
Ooh, I'm Jamie. This is
So,
really exciting, guys.
this is very exciting. So, Jamie, this is your movie pick, Suspiria 1977. Do you want to tell everybody a little bit about your experience with Suspiria and why this is your favorite movie?
Sure, I'd love to. I can't ever stop talking about Suspiria, the OG Suspiria. So this movie really changed how I view horror movies. It really did. I liked horror movies already at this point, but this was like the point in time when I was like 18 and I was really, really delving deep into horror. And I had actually seen Suspiria pop up on a list of like the 100 most scariest movies of all time. And I was like, I have to see this one. So this was just one that I rented. I watched it by myself. I loved it. I watched it multiple times, probably in that same, rental period. And it's just been my favorite ever since. I love the color. I love the story. I love that it's witches and the kills are really, really, really delicious. How about you, Nina?
I didn't see this one until I was an adult. I actually found the remake first, had no clue who Argento was whatsoever, and discovered the original Suspiria and Argento soon after, and it was very different from the remake, and that's usually a good thing. But it was a lot of fun, and it is beautiful to look at, and it's fun to listen to, and every single kill is different and unique. And I, to this day, there's nothing like Suspiria.
And I really don't think there ever will be,
Mhm.
and it's funny too because I was like thinking about it the other day, and this is my favorite movie of all time, and I love Argento, but I'm almost like, I don't, it's my favorite, but I'm like, I don't know if it's necessarily Argento's best, and
Yeah,
maybe I'm not, maybe I'm alone in that, but I actually might say that I think Tenebrae, is that how you pronounce it, Tenebrae? That might
yeah, I've
be
heard it
like what.
pronounced both ways.
Right. So I actually might think that that one is Argento's best. Maybe that's because it's more of a
Mm,
giallo than, Suspiria is, but
right.
Suspiria is always going to be my favorite.
Yeah. Well, I haven't seen Tenebrae. That's one I've been saving, but I do agree. I think Suspiria is kind of overhyped. I don't think it's his best movie. Um, I I personally prefer Demons over Suspiria. It's
Oh,
got very similar vibes for sure. The colors, the deep saturation, the music, of course, with Goblin, but
yes.
it's more fun to me than Suspiria was. I think Suspiria is definitely more of a slow burn, and but I think that a lot of people really love this movie, so I'm really excited to be covering it.
I'm so excited. Like, I can't watch Suspiria enough. I mean, I think I watched this movie like 2 weeks ago as well, just because I was like, I don't know, what do I put on? Well, Suspiria, of course.
I don't, but this was the first time I've seen it probably in 4 or 5 years, and
Wow.
it was interesting this time around. Let me tell you, it took a few watches to get all the way through it, and yeah, I'm excited to talk about it. I did start watching this with Ethan, and for some reason, Tubi just stopped working halfway through. But I remember Ethan would turn to me, he's like, "What the fuck are we watching? What the fuck is this?" Like every 5 seconds, "What the fuck is this?" Like,
Oh, I love
and I'm
it.
like, I was like, "Do you want me to tell you?" And he's like, "No, but I'm mad. I
I
have
love
things
it.
to say, and I wish he was here to say them, but he's here in
I
spirit,
know.
and
He's
yeah,
here in
he
spirit.
I don't think this particular Argento film is his cup of tea just because it's very artsy and it's like it's a slow burn. So if you're not ready for it, it takes a while to get to the point. So if you're not a fan of those types of
Definitely.
movies, this one may not be for you.
For
But
sure.
yeah, Jamie, want to start in on our plot with this one?
Sure. So I mean, I kind of just like picked some plot points and like looked at stuff in those little like sections there. This is our
Yeah.
first episode, folks. So brand new kind of format and everything. But you know, to start, we have our American Susie, who is heading to Germany to go to this ballet school that her aunt donated a lot of money to, by the way. I never really
Okay,
noticed that before.
I have a question with this.
Yeah.
So, this is my pet peeve here. All right, this is a very reputable dance company. They're in Germany,
Yeah.
she's an American. How the fuck did this girl get in without ever
I
auditioning? The teachers say they've never seen her dance before, they hope she's good, and I'm like, "How'd she get into this dance studio if she's never auditioned?" And then you just answered my question, the aunt donated money, and that's probably how she got in.
I honestly, I've watched this movie so many times and I don't know how I didn't like pick up on this before, but you know, she's talking to Madame Blanc and she's talking about like, oh yes, like I knew your aunt or whatever. She donated a
Yeah.
lot of money to the arts or whatever. And I'm like, oh, that's what
Oh,
happened. That's how this whole thing went down. Is Susie's aunt paid a lot of money to the school. Okay.
right.
So now that we have that out of the way, okay, so she, you know, she makes her way to the school. It's pouring rain. She finds this woman outside saying these crazy words, secret iris, and she's basically kicked away basically and has to come back the next day. So that's kind of our first little like scene here. Susie arrives
Now,
at this crazy ballet studio.
I don't know if you know, but is at least the exterior, is the exterior a real building, or did they make that on a soundstage? I feel like it's too ornate to be real, but I'm hoping it is. Do you
I
know?
actually don't know. That'd be a really
I
good
couldn't
thing to
find
look
any
up.
info on it.
If anybody knows, let us know because I'm obsessed with the building. It's
It's
so
so pretty.
beautiful and oh, so I really hope that it's real. But I don't
Yeah.
know for sure. So a couple notes that I made. I really love the whole like scene where she's coming from the airport to the ballet school. There was like some amazing fashions in the background at the airport. I just had to say
Mhm.
that. And I really have always loved that taxi ride scene because, like, I
Oh,
love the
yeah.
colors in the back and the rain and the way that the lightning illuminates the trees in the forest. It was all so beautiful.
He really likes to show his leading ladies in taxis when it's raining, and I don't know what the deal is, but, yeah, you're right, the reflection from the blue to the red, like, the flashing red and the blue, how it just transitions so effortlessly between the 2, it's gorgeous, it's so beautiful.
It's so cool. And then like, yeah, like you said, he has a thing for that. He has a thing for like several things that pop up in this movie. So I'm like sitting here and I'm like, maybe I need to look into like Italian mythology and see if any of these things are
It's a good
like based
idea.
in something, you know what I mean? Because it hasn't come up yet, but I'll just say it now. Dogs in Italian movies, especially Argento or Fulci, equal death, like not a good
Yeah,
thing. So I'm like,
yeah.
is there something to that? Because I've seen that used in like multiple Italian horror movies, but it's mostly Fulci and Argento that I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah, for sure, and Italians in general, they have a very, what's the word for it? They it's on the tip of my tongue. They almost, like, see things as omens or s sus God, I'm blanking. It's,
There's like
not
symbolism to
suspicious.
it.
Yeah, they always see symbolism in every little thing, and, if you know what the word is I'm thinking, people let me know, but I'm just blanking. But yes, I think Italian people, maybe just Europeans in general, have a tendency to see nuances in every little thing, so I think that's really interesting to do in film.
I do too. And then let's go ahead and get into because I have to talk about the kills here. And
Yes.
our first kill is this lovely kill of is her name Pat? Pam?
Pat. Pat.
Pat. We have this beautiful kill of Pat, the woman that she, you know, Susie saw the night before saying secret irises.
Mhm.
And it's amazing. Everything, the color, like I I love when her face is all like smashed up against the window. I think it's beautiful because it's like almost funny, like because it's so extreme, but it's like
Yeah.
terrifying because you wouldn't look good in that moment.
Right. I do have a question for you.
Yeah.
I'm posing questions to you because you've seen this movie so many times, and it's been a while for me, and I
Yeah.
remember really enjoying it the first time, and this time I'm like, I got questions. So this kill scene, it goes on for a while, and it happens in many different locations. So first, she's in the bedroom, her friend's apartment. I'm assuming
Yeah.
it's her apartment. It's not the dance studio anymore.
Right.
And she's got her head smashed against the glass, and then it cuts it cuts to her friend outside, and then Pat's in another room with screens, and I don't know where that
Oh.
came from because,
You,
like, because she's up against a window and there's nothing on the outside there. They already made that blatantly obvious, and then she's in a room with screens. It's like a hallway with screens everywhere, and
yeah,
then
honest it might be a discontinuity thing
yeah,
because I assumed it was like you're right. We saw the outside of the window because there's
right.
that shot of her in the window from the outside, and it's not like there's like a little
Yeah,
atrium because it almost looks like she's pulled back into an atrium or something where the
right,
screens are. But you're right.
right.
We saw the outside of the window, and there's no
And then
atrium or anything
randomly
like that.
she goes to the area where the stained glass ceiling is that she's standing on, and that's where she
Yep.
falls through. And it's like I feel like maybe it's just the witches transporting her to different areas in the building or something. Maybe that's what's going on to keep
That could be
her
it.
friend from helping her. But because you don't go from a bedroom in an apartment building to randomly falling through the center of the apartment building.
You
So
don't.
I hope not.
That's true. That's a good point. I mean, it kind of goes a lot of different directions. So I
It
don't
does.
know. Let's blame the witches on that one
I'm
and
gonna
just
blame the
say, you know what?
witches, yeah.
It's the witches, okay? They were transporting her to different places and it's a whole thing, okay?
Yeah, but that kill is beautiful, the falling through the ceiling, and then her friend dies as well.
Which is so good. She's got like the glass in her face and it's just like broken glass and blood on the floor.
Yeah,
And I love
that
it.
blood is beautiful.
Argento does blood so good.
He does, he does.
Uh, I really love him. Okay, so next, I wrote that Susie arrives to the school in a sparkly shawl. They welcome her
Yes.
by saying, "You got to pay for your own room and figure that out." Sorry about last night. Sorry about that.
Didn't
And then
tell
we
you in
kind of
advance you'd be paying for your own room either.
Whoops. Didn't mean to kick you out, at night when it was raining or anything too. And oh, by the way, there's also a murderer on the loose here. So welcome. Hope you had a good flight. And then we kind of get to start to meet the other characters now. We get like this wonderful introduction of Miss Tanner. I love her. She threw so much shade to the guy where she's like, he's ugly. You can call him that. He doesn't hear. And she's like, oh, so handsome. So much shade.
I gotta talk about this guy for a second.
Yeah, we do.
First off, he clearly speaks English because he knows exactly what she's fucking saying.
Absolutely. That's a lie. He speaks English.
Yeah, and I don't buy the whole he had gingivitis thing, and obviously later we find out that he is in on this coven thing, he's part of their schemes, so it makes me wonder, did he anger one of the witches and they removed his teeth?
Ooh, I think that's like much more plausible.
Yeah, that's more fun than, "Oh, he just had gingivitis, so he had them all removed."
I know, man. Gingivitis isn't fun at all.
No, that's
Too
so
real.
boring.
I
Too
know.
Hits too close to home, let's do
It
something
really
else.
does. Please say it was witches that removed the teeth out of this man's head. Come on.
Oh, and
um,
also, I don't know if you noticed this, but when Susie first arrives, when she's talking to Madame Blanc, she says initially that she arrived at the academy at 11 last night, and then later on, when she's on the stairs with Madame Blanc, she says 10.
ooh, get your numbers straight,
Oh, Susie
Susie.
didn't know when she got there.
What does that mean?
She
um,
forgot her line.
And then I do kind of love this scene where she meets all of the other girls in the dressing room. I like love Olga. She's one of my favorites in the movie because she's kind of like the bitch, but she's really fun, and she has the whole thing with the S names, and the S names start with or snakes or whatever like that, and I love that for her. She's wearing this like amazing long black dress with a flower and this like long slit in it too that I'm like obsessed with. So I really like the kind of scene where Susie meets all the other girls.
Yeah. I will say I think it's interesting, Olga, as far as we know, is the only student that lives off campus.
Yeah, I know, and I always
So,
wondered why.
I'm glad I'm not the only one. I feel like she knows that there's more to the story. Maybe she's like an apprentice witch or something, and, because she's always, she she always seems to be working in the background or something. So,
Totally. Yeah, I like the idea of her maybe being in on it in some way.
yeah,
Um,
definitely.
Definitely. And then let's see. I really love Sarah too. That's her friend, who has that great kill later on. I did just want to mention like I love when we get to see that lighter that she has with the little watch on
Yeah.
it. And
Yeah,
then I really love the callback where the guy that we were just talking about likes it, obviously, because she
right.
mentions it. And then at the end he has it, and that's pretty rewarding.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah. Okay, the next thing I kind of moved to is, so Susie has her dance practice, so many leotards. And that's when we first kind of see like one of the witches kind of like attack Susie. We have that lady and the little boy, and she uses her like light stick and makes
What
our
was up with
girl.
that? What was
Yeah,
up
I
with
don't
that?
know.
What's she trying to do? Is she just trying to, like, gauge Susie, or, like, she's just hungry and needs some energy? Like, what the hell is going on with this bitch?
Yeah, I know, because we see her pop up a few times, but she's kind of an
She never
enigma.
says
We
anything, yeah.
She doesn't. But I've always thought the scene where Susie is on her toes and faints is really pretty. So
Mhm.
excellent fainter, really pretty fainting. Okay. So then, Susie gets moved to the school where she's
Mhm.
prescribed red wine every night to
Every
deal
night.
with her fainting spells and such. I have to say, so I actually think the school apartment is really, really gorgeous. Like, if you had to
Yes.
choose Olga's apartment or the school,
Neither. No,
pretty smart.
I'm on the next plane back to America. I'm not doing
Yeah.
this. Like,
Yeah. Too many
after they
strange
brought
occurrences.
her stuff, to the studio, I was just like, "Nah, it's time to get
Yeah.
out. You're in a horror movie, hon."
Yeah, things are not quite as they seem here.
Exactly.
So yeah, the maggot scene or the worms scene. Let's talk about that for a minute.
Now, I don't know why a dance studio is storing their food in an attic.
Like they
So far
do.
away from the kitchen, it seems very inconvenient, but, hey, whatever works. Does Argento, as he's known to do, does he use real maggots? Do you know?
I'm gonna guess they were. They looked pretty freaking real, and that's kind of like I feel like that was like the thing with Italian horror movies at the time.
Yes.
Obviously, I'm trying to. Was it City of the Living Dead where Fulci famously like cannon blasted maggots at his actors?
He sure did.
And what an amazing sentence to speak. What a world. Yeah, so I'm gonna assume that they were real, that like the sound that they made when the boots crunch on them sounded very real to me. It might not have been. That might have just been really good sound effects, but they looked real.
It's impressive if it was real that he got that many maggots, and, this was back before we had people making sure no animals or, whatever are harmed on set. So it's just incredible that he was able to get all those maggots there. Granted, maggots don't they're not really a concern for living people because they only
No.
eat dead flesh. So technically everyone's fine. The maggots on the floor getting squished, not so much, but
Yeah. But the scene with like her brush and they're in her brush because she feels it in her hair,
Yeah.
like, oh,
Mm.
love it. Love me some worms, some wormy stuff. Okay, and then everybody moves into that main room together because of the maggot situation. And I have to say, I really love like the red color of the curtains and everything. There's the moment where like our head witch, sleeps, like lays down right behind them, and I love that. You could see like the silhouette of her behind them. Love that
Yes.
scene.
This is one of my favorite scenes. This scene stood out to me. It's one of the scenes I always remember, when I was describing this film to people, this and the taxi ride in. And, it's just so beautiful. The red lights, the silhouettes, the use of shadows is incredible because you never see the head witch, not until the very end, and it's
I
very effective,
know.
very spooky.
It's so spooky. I just love like shadow work because it's really like ominous,
Yeah.
where it's like something's there but you can't exactly define it because shadows are distorted, right? So it's like, how much of this is it just my mind kind of filling in the blanks of what I don't know? So really good shadow work. I love any kind of shadows.
Definitely.
Um okay. The next thing I went to was our dog. I mentioned this earlier, but our dog kill.
Yeah.
Um, brutal.
Very brutal.
Like I
But
said, dogs in an Italian horror movie are just not good.
yeah, my one thing I'm curious about, we find out that the dog apparently attacked the nephew, the young boy, and obviously it's probably because this dog sensed that there's more going on, right? And it makes me wonder, like, how long has this piano player been there? Obviously not very long if the dog's just now attacking people, right?
Right. He's got to be pretty new to the job. I didn't even think about that, but yeah, he's got to be pretty new to the job because dogs, I feel like could pick up on that stuff, and obviously the dog picks up on it when he attacks his owner and everything. But good
Right.
point. Yeah, maybe Daniel doesn't really have a good sense of the situation himself.
You would think he would, but I mean, sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do to get paid. It was Germany in the '70s, so I'm
It's
sure it was
true.
hard to
It's
come
hard out
by.
there.
Yeah, it's tough, guys.
It's tough being a blind piano
A
player in
blind
this
piano
town.
player.
But yeah, I gotta say, like, I love the dog kill because it's like your best companion, your
Yeah,
eyes, attacking
literally.
you. And there's
Yeah,
this whole thing that I've never really understood, because you kind of see like a griffin or something, like a statue up on top, and it almost seems like something's flying around and comes down and flies at you. So I'm
mhm.
like, I don't know, was it just like witchiness, or did they like was it like a griffin? I don't know. I don't know why the flyy thing was happening, but I liked it.
I think it's meant to show the witch's powers or something affecting the dog somehow, because
Yeah.
obviously the dog just doesn't get possessed randomly. They've gotta be casting a spell, so I feel like their powers are
Yeah.
somehow flying through the air and stuff, and it's a very beautiful way to shoot the scene, honestly. So,
Yeah, it was gorgeous. And the gore is really fun too because like when the dog pulls on the neck goo,
yeah,
it's really stringy and bouncy.
exactly how it would be, exactly. I love it.
Exactly.
So gorgeous.
I know, I know. Okay, so then we eventually have it revealed that Sarah, oh, there goes my headphone. Bear with me. They're new. So basically Sarah reveals to Susie, they're in the room and everything, that Sarah's suspicious of the teachers, that she was friends with Pat, and is kind of continuing her detectiving that Pat was doing
Yeah,
on the school. And
I
that
gotta
Pat was taking
say sorry, Sarah never let Susie sleep, not once.
even when she was like sick.
Yeah, she's literally, like, zoning out, and she just continues on. She's like, "Susie, wake up, listen to me, damn it." I'm like, "This bitch is just trying to sleep. You know how hard it is to work at a dance studio and have this on top of it? Like, can we wait till,
Seriously.
like, the daytime or in between breakfast and practice?"
I know, and she's obviously like doped up. She's being given like red wine and like she's
Yeah,
way too sleepy, so obviously like I feel like they were giving her something with the food, the bland food, and she tosses it at one point. So I'm like I think like they were kind of drugging her or something or weakening her. So
definitely.
she was like passed out when Sarah was pulling her like listen to the footsteps shit. Like they don't they don't leave the school at night, they stay here, but where do they go? And it's like I'm just trying to
Right.
sleep.
And Sarah's been telling her this from the very beginning, and Susie doesn't really catch on until like the very end, but we'll get there.
Takes Susie a while, yeah. So Sarah goes on this like she's trying to like figure shit out, and let's just go to like the barbed wire kill here.
Yeah.
Because it's like if I had to pick a favorite kill in the movie, my favorite is the barbed wire, the non-barbed wire kill.
Yes. The
I love
sound.
me. Yeah, I know it's gnarly.
Yeah. I don't know what they use for the sound, but it's incredible.
I know. And I've actually read that the actress did get a little hurt in that scene. They didn't use barbed wire, but they had wire in there. So I guess she
Yeah.
still got kind of hurt by that.
Well, not only that, but like I don't know if she actually did that or not, but the jump from the window down into the room, like that looked intense. That was quite a few feet falling into the
Yeah, it
room.
was. Yeah.
So,
I think Sarah's a really cool, like, not so final girl. She might not always get her due as that, but she's interesting because to me, she kind of takes on a lot of the characteristics of a final girl because she is doing all like the detectiving, right? She's like really set on finding out what the deal is with like the
yeah.
witches and what's been going on and what happened to her friends. So, like, she almost is taking that like investigator role that we sometimes see a final girl kind of take on.
Yeah, for sure. I think the Sarah in this version of Suspiria is much stronger than the remake. I really think she just did an incredible job, and I have to go back to the when she's in the room just before she gets killed with the barbed wire, and she's listening to the footsteps and all this other stuff. The lighting, it goes from blue to green. And then, like, when she opens the door, I don't know if you noticed this, but there's, like, red on the ceiling from the hallway,
Hmm.
and it's like fingers, like claws coming into the room, and then she closes the door again, and it goes back to the blue and the green, and it's so beautiful. Like, I know what we've said this already, but it's gorgeous, and I love the use of color. I don't know how he did it because it's unlike anything I've ever seen in any movie. Even some of his other ones, he's not that meticulous with his colors as this one.
I
So,
agree. Like this is his most colorful movie for sure. You see like hints of it in like the rest of this like series, so like Inferno, not really in Mother of
yeah,
Tears. That one's so different,
no,
but yeah, this one's special and it's like every frame of this movie, I think you could like take a still of it and like hang it up and frame
yeah,
it and it would be gorgeous. I mean, I love this movie, but let's be real, it's definitely more about like the aesthetics and the looks than it is
yeah.
necessarily other aspects.
Well, Argento, I mean, not just Argento, but Italian filmmakers in general, they don't really have a point of focusing on the story and like letting the story lead you. It's more of like the aesthetic and telling a story with not just words, but like symbolism and visuals and
Yeah,
sound. And I think that that's a different kind of filmmaking that we don't see in America very often.
I agree. And I think maybe that's why I like Italian horror films so much is I like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, and they just seem to have like this steeze to them, like a special look and like I really like what you said in our live stream actually that, Argento might be the first person to do like to start elevated horror. I definitely see it. When you said that
yeah.
I was like, "Oh, wow, I can definitely see what she means."
Yeah, because there's Italian filmmaking and then there's Argento,
Yeah.
within the horror realm. Like there's lots of Italian horror directors, but there's only one Argento, and a lot of Italian directors, including Fulci, did not like Argento. They thought he was uppity and, stuffy and full of himself. So I think he was ahead of his time for sure. I think people that work with A24 now, they owe a lot to Argento. So
Yeah, I mean, even if you look at some Tarantino movies, like I mean, you can
Mhm.
see Argento influences in Tarantino.
Absolutely.
When I showed David Deep Red for the first time, there were a couple moments where he's like, I have a feeling that Tarantino has seen this movie. And I said, yeah, I think
Yeah.
so, probably.
He's seen so many things. He's definitely a filmmaker for filmmakers. He's incredible.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, agreed. Okay, so let's talk about, so Susie meets her end with the wire, which is really, really beautiful. Like her body like looks great when you see it later too, her like corpse and everything. But Susie ends up going to meet the professor friend of Sarah's. What did you kind of think of that scene?
I got thoughts. First off, this guy introduces himself as, was it Sarah's psychologist or Pat's psychologist?
I
I
think
can't
it
remember.
was, oh, I think it was, must have been Sarah's. I think it was Sarah's,
Yeah,
but
I
I'm
think it
not
was
sure.
Sarah's. This guy's really young to be anybody's therapist. He also has something that really struck me. He mentioned how she was mentioning witches a lot and witchcraft and magic within the school going on, and but he shoves it all away, and he's just like, they must have been crazy, they were obviously mentally ill, and I'm like, typical, like that's so often in history. Like, any strange goings on, you just brush the woman off as she was just hysterical. She had no clue what she was talking about, just
Yeah.
hysterical.
It was
And I
just the
was like,
hysteria. It's always hysteria
"It's
with
always
women.
hysteria." Yeah. She's just crazy. She's too emotional. What did you
Seriously.
think about that scene?
Well, same. I was like, wow, he really kind of like wrote them off. But then
Yeah.
I think like also it's like, oh well, that's handy that he had this other guy here who knows. I mean, this is just a plaza for talk about supernatural shit, whether you
It's
believe it or you don't believe it. We have a professor right over here.
awfully
Come on
convenient, like, they're just being hysterical, but I got an expert over here, he'll fill you in on all of
Yeah,
that shit.
you talk to him.
Dumb.
So that was handy. That was really handy to have
Yeah.
that guy sitting around.
He was more helpful, he clearly didn't think the women were being hysterical, it's fine.
I know, I know. But and I will say, like, so he gives us like a little bit of this like mythos, right? About this
Mhm.
like house and about like the woman who starts it and the witches and how it kind of evolved to what it is. And I will say with Suspiria and the whole kind of loose Mother of Tears trilogy or Mother's trilogy or whatever, I kind of thought that they really like could have done more with the mythos because I thought it was cool. I always kind of wanted them to delve deeper into it, and they never
Yeah.
really delved too deep into it. You get a feel like you get a little bit of it in the next movie too, in Inferno, because there's books and stuff, but you don't really get a whole lot of it. And I thought that part of the story was actually really cool, and I always wanted to know a little bit more.
I agree. I think it would have been very interesting to, even as cliche as it sounds, do a prequel of how Mother Marcos became so powerful. And we never get that. We only get hints of it, and we get hints of the other mothers in the sequels, the unofficial sequels, and I think there's a real missed opportunity to delve into this mythology that he created in this first film. So,
Yeah. And Mother Marcos is like a badass. Like
she's a
she seems
bitch. She's
Yeah, I
insane.
know. I would love to know like her story and how she kind of like came up to be who she is and like man,
Yeah.
that is a prequel that I would actually maybe want to see depending on who did it and what
Definitely,
everything was, but I would like to hear her
definitely.
story. Yeah.
I agree. I think, it whenever they were talking about Mother Marcos coming up in this company or whatever, women, I mean, women still have to be strong, but even back then when women didn't have any rights, she had to be strong, and you don't just form a coven and, control these people for no reason. So obviously you have to survive somehow. And I think it would be interesting to look at it from that perspective. So come
Man,
on,
I
horror makers.
I know. Now I'm like really wanting this because I'm like, ugh, I really want to understand her more. We don't really get to see like we only really get to see like one dimension of her.
Yeah,
And I'd love to see those other dimensions of her. Cause like you said, like she had to go through some struggles to get to where she is, like for sure.
yeah. You
She's
don't become a
actually
psycho villain unless you've been through some shit. She's got
oh
trauma.
yeah. She is like a trailblazing woman and she deserves way more credit.
I support her.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I mean, like Susie gets back, and she's like doing her detectiving and everything, and it's when I know that like she figures out what the secret iris basically represented, and I have to
Yeah.
say, I think that is so cool because I'm a big fan of like your pull the lantern and the whole bookcase like opens up, and so you're looking, and then you're like, oh, that blue flower right there, and you can turn it, and it's an actual knob.
I don't know if you noticed this. I didn't notice it the first time, but the colors of the irises they are the same colors as the stained glass window from the beginning.
That is so cool. Color coordination too in this
Color
building.
coordination. Yeah, it's beautiful. So, just thought I'd point that
Amazing.
out.
I love that. I love that. And I really loved like the whole secret like witch lair that she opens up. There's like these
Mhm.
lacy curtains and I just loved the whole look of that kind of room.
Yeah, it was gorgeous. There are walls within walls. It's so pretty.
Yeah. And then we start to get to see like Susie gets to see a little bit of the witches like doing their thing, and Madame Blanc is being all like kill her, kill Susie, and she
It's
finds her
like,
friend's
why? What'd she
body.
do?
I
What up
know.
until this point, what has she done?
Other than be like slightly annoying, but like she wasn't even really that annoying for Madame Blanc, She really wasn't. She didn't
Yeah.
want to stay at the school, which seemed to upset her. But like other than that,
But
just
as
kind
soon as they had the incident, she just fell right in line and she's just been
of yeah.
taking the food. And unless they noticed she stopped taking the food, she really hadn't done too much detective work up until this point. So it's very interesting how they're just like, get rid of her.
Yeah, I know you kind of had mentioned this. Susie was really, really late to the game.
Yeah, she was very late to the game. It's like, you're in a horror movie.
I know, like I love Susie, but she's kind of like she's a bit docile like for a
She doesn't have
while.
as much power in this film as she does in the remake, I think, and that's something I didn't really care for, I think. I think that's one of the reasons why I like the remake more. She has more power in
Yeah.
this in the new one. So,
Yeah. She doesn't really have a lot of power in this one. It's like the detectiving that she's doing was really already done for her by Sarah and by Pat. And
yeah,
yeah, but she kind of like takes it back. She takes the final
she
girl thing
does.
back towards the end when she's
Yeah,
faced against our beloved Mother Marcos.
definitely. Yeah, that was brilliant. Bringing Sarah back to life, so to speak, and she's just like frozen in terror. She doesn't know what to do, and obviously Sarah's dead. She knows that, but like,
Yeah.
what? How to defeat this shit that's going on? And then she
Right.
realizes Marcos, like she's got to kill Marcos. So
Yeah. And she just grabs that peacock knife thing, which I love. I don't completely
yeah,
understand it, but it's so witchy and perfect and cool.
right.
And she like goes right for her and like figures out how to kill her, which is pretty badass. I will give Susie that.
Yeah, although I think it's a little silly that no one's thought, "Maybe we should just stab Marcos." I mean, maybe they just didn't have access to her, but it's like, "That's it? You just stab Okay. Alright, whatever."
I will say it is slightly non-climactic because Mother Marcos, she's kind of built up all the way through this movie. We don't see her
Mm,
till the very end, and Susie just kind of like figures out there's her like ghost shape, and that's kind of it with like one
yeah.
stab.
I got some questions, though.
Okay, shoot.
Alright. And this is just my realistic side kicking it, of course. And I know Argento doesn't really care about the story and all this, but the
Yeah.
Dance Academy gets set on fire at the end, and it presumably burns to the ground. Um, we also know that the students are still living in this academy,
Thank
except
you.
Olga. Did they just die? We don't have any concern about that? Or do we think they were all involved and in on it as well?
Thank you. Okay, I was like really thinking about this on this last view too, because like Susie like gets out of the building and she has that little like, she like smiles, because
Yeah,
she's
she
out and
smiles and
stuff.
just leaves.
I know, and then I'm like, wait, aren't there like your classmates inside? Were they all out for the day on holiday? Like that doesn't make sense. So, and it's like I can't I don't think that they were all in it. I think that like
Yeah,
I think they died. I think like the
I think they
fire
died
happened
too.
and they
Yeah.
died and that was
I
it.
think they died. I'm curious. I would love to see Olga's reaction the next morning when she comes into school, though, and there's no school. That would be fucking hilarious. Can we get
Oh my
a just a
god.
fan-made little edit of that? That would be great.
Yes, please. Yeah, I know. And it's like, did Susie go to the authorities? Like, how
Yeah.
did she explain that? Like,
American student studying in Germany, just get the fuck out of the country now.
Yeah.
This is Cold War era. You better get out. Like,
Exactly.
no way.
Oh my god.
Oh man, I do have some fun little things I thought I'd share really quick.
Yeah.
Um, so I just thought these were interesting. Obviously, if you're a true Suspiria nut, you probably already know these, like you, Jamie. So I thought this was interesting. Argento initially planned to make the girls in the school much younger, like age of 12.
Yeah.
Um, which, however, the studio and the producer denied this concept. They thought it would be too violent to have children exposed to something so young, which makes sense. So they rewrote it to make the girls more like 20 or so.
Yeah. And like thinking about it, like, I think like because I can relate better to these girls because they're closer to my age, like
Yeah,
I think it's more likely to be scary or enjoyable for me. I don't think I would have liked it with kids as much. It would have been different dynamic for sure and I wouldn't relate quite as much. I'm all about like, causing mayhem and destruction to kids on movies.
for sure. I,
But
I think the deaths themselves, seeing a kid die that way would be too extreme
I
for me.
agree.
But I do think it's interesting. Some of the dialogue that they had initially written for the children was kept in. So that's why sometimes it sounds so childlike what they're
Yeah.
saying and so naive. And and apparently, I don't the set designer put the doorknobs about the same height as the actresses' heads. So they would have to reach higher or they'd have to raise their arms in order to open the doors. So it had this Alice in Wonderland kind of vibe to it.
I love that. That's so
Right?
genius. Like I really love messing with perspectives like that.
Yes, definitely. Something else that I thought was interesting, the woman playing Helena Marcos was not credited.
Oh, I
Apparently,
think I saw that.
yeah, Jessica Harper said she was a 90-year-old former prostitute who Argento found in roaming the streets of Rome.
I think
And if
I've
that
read
doesn't
that.
say anything about Argento,
Oh man, that's so awesome. I love
yeah,
that. I love that.
yeah, I thought that was fun.
That's amazing. And it sounds
Oh,
very Argento.
it does. All right, Jamie, do you have anything else to add on Suspiria 1977?
Well, just Suspiria in 1977, right? 77,
I
79,
think so.
77. I think so. It's my
Double
favorite
check.
movie. I know. It's my favorite movie. I've loved it for many, many years. I'm not huge on the remake, but I think it's cool that it took a totally different direction, and I think they did a good job with it. I just nothing can ever hold a candle to this one for me. I think if I were to say like my three essential things about this movie would be that I love the witchcraft element. I love anything that has to do with witches. I feel like we don't get enough good witch movies. So I really love witches. The colors in this, like, you just can't beat the colors. There's nothing like this. Like you've said, nothing else looks like Suspiria. And if it
Yeah.
does, it's probably, emulating or paying homage to Suspiria. And then the
Mhm.
gore. I just love the special effects in this one so much. It's like from the stained glass kill and the stabbing, and you see her actual heart getting stabbed. I love that. To the barbed wire, like the kills are just beautiful and amazing.
I agree. I don't think there will ever be anything like Suspiria. It's just beautiful. The aesthetic is gorgeous. The characters you really come to love and relate to, and the gore is it's unmatched. You know, every single kill is unique. He never repeats kills, and it's just absolutely beautiful. So um, I think Suspiria is one that will always be a fan favorite for all horror lovers, really. So,
Yeah.
what shall we rate this movie at 1 out of 10? 10 being best horror movie ever, 1 being not so great.
It might not be a 10 for everybody, but this is a 10 for me. It's not a perfect movie. Like if I was being more objective about it and not showing my bias and love for this movie, it'd be a little bit lower, but for me, this is a 10 movie forever and for always.
I'm gonna give this one a 6 just because,
Yeah, it's
the
fair.
story's kinda slow for me, and that can be a big detractor, especially when my brain is running still from the day, and, but other than the slow burn of it, I think it's a great story. I love the mythos of it, the story of the witches and how they got established, and I love the aesthetic of it. I love the '70s colors, the costumes, the music is ugh, the music, even the sound effects during the kills. It's just such a great, essential horror. So,
Yeah.
it's a 6, but I highly recommend it.
And I have to say too, the soundtrack, like the theme, is one of my favorite horror movie themes
Yes.
ever. I love Goblin. I almost got to see like the live performance of the Suspiria theme and the Suspiria whatever tour that they did a few years back, but I missed it. And I've heard it's a really, really, really great show. So I'd love to see it one day.
From what I hear, they do this every year. They do a tour every
Yeah.
year of a different movie. I saw Demon with them performing live last year, and after the movie, they did perform some songs from their other films that they did with Argento and some others, and they
Wow.
did play Susie's theme song, and I'm like, "My
Ah,
heart."
that's
So
so
beautiful.
freaking cool.
Yeah. If they ever come to a city near you guys, you have to go see it. It's an incredible experience.
I've heard that.
So,
They usually do it in Phoenix, so one day I'm gonna see them for sure.
definitely. Alright, guys, that is it for Suspiria 1977. If you liked this episode, there will be more. We will be doing Scream next week. And be sure to like and follow and subscribe to all of our social medias. They will be in the description below.
Thank
Until next
you.
time, we are Bloody
Bye.
Essentials. Bye.